Julia.
All right, I'm going to mute everybody so we can get started.
Okay.
Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. You are beautiful just the way you are. Step into the love. You're illuminated by the glory of God's love. Step into the truth. From within your abundance overflows. How love can change one life. One life can change the world. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. So move with me, step with me, step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. So move with me, step with me, step into the light.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Downey Center for Spiritual Living. So glad you are with us this morning. And as is our usual custom, we'd like to get right to spiritual practices. And of course, we just sang something that's a form of spiritual practice. At least I was singing. I love to get in the groove that way. And then we also like to remind ourselves of our vision and mission. And I will share that on the screen sort of right now. So I'm just going to read this vision and mission to you and just allow these words to wash over you for the moment. And then we'll just sit with that for a moment and then we'll recite it together. By valuing and empowering all, we inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. Al valorar y potenciar todo, inspiramos una vida plena y alegre. And I invite you just to say this along with me. By valuing and empowering all, we inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. avalar y
avalar y
potenciar
potenciar
todo,
todo,
inspiramos
inspiramos
una vida
una
plena
vida plena
y
y
alegre.
alegre.
And I'd like to, as we're just ruminating with that vision and mission, I want to introduce our practitioner of the day. And we are blessed to lead us in our next spiritual practices by practitioner Angelica Guzman. And so we're in for a real treat today. So I will now pass this over to Angelica as she leads us in our next spiritual practices.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This morning we are going to prepare to do a little meditation, and I would like for you to close your eyes, relax, put your feet on the ground, feel that ground in our feet. Make sure that we are in this present moment, ready to enjoy our service this morning. Our body is relaxing. We're going to take a few deep breathing just to feel that calmness coming in us, releasing any tension in our body, any tension in our thoughts. This morning, I would like for you to use your hands imaginarily. Open them up, and we're going to open them up in a meaning, in a sense of inclusion, in a way to include everything and everyone in our lives. We're going to include in here everything that we have, not only about possessions, but our home, the nature, our trees, everything that surrounds our lives and makes it better. I want you to put it all in your hands. Let the images come together. Visualize everything. And now in those hands, I also want you to visualize all the people that surround you, all the people that you love, at your work, at home, in your community, the people that we want to include in our world, which being part of the divine, we know we are one. We are one with everyone. So we have all this in our hands as a way to feel that we are all included, that we could take off any illusion and go farther down to know that as spirits, we are one with everyone and with everything. And at the same time, we transcend this image of being into not only the physical level, we go further into the divine level to really see who we are and connect with everyone and everything. We'll take some time to feel and emanate from our bodies and from our mind love, light, blessings, knowing that God expresses through us and the way that we allow it to express itself. And knowing that divine power within us, we emanate it and share it with all those images that we had in our mind. love, light, health, peace, blessing. And now within your hands, I want you to hold a little bubble of light. Hold a little bubble of light. And on those images of all the people that were surrounding you, when you had them in your hands, think about one or a couple of people that you really just come to your mind. Let it just one face show up to your mind, or a group of people in your family. And open up that little bubble of light and let them shower their life with that light. Maybe later on after our wonderful service, you may want to give them a call, send them some blessings, talk to that person that came into your mind. If it show up in your mind, there might be a time for you to speak to them, include them within your life. Knowing that God expresses to them, if their image came to your mind, maybe a nice thing to call them and say hello, share with them our life, our love, our health, and our blessings. We're going to take a deep breath. Slowly we start to feel our feet on the ground in our home. But we're going to get ready to enjoy this wonderful service. We're going to enjoy to feel and listen with all of us together our divine power evolving through us for us. Us. With a deep breath, I would like you to start coming back. And whenever you feel like you're ready to open your eyes, we could begin. With a little invocation. We know that we are that divine power that is everywhere, that is omnipresent, omnipowerful, mighty. We know that that power is within us and everywhere around us. We know that power is love, is light, it's health, it's happiness. This morning we recognize that that power is within us. It's here to make us enjoy the meaning of this service, to enjoy our family, to enjoy our safety, our love. And we are thankful for that, because that's our truth, and that's the truth of God. We live this truth to the law, knowing that it already is. And that's how it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
Mm-hmm. Wow. How beautiful. How beautiful to emerge from this consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our practitioner, Angelica Guzman, for that meditation and speaking the word of blessing for our Sunday service. Wow. Let us emerge from that consciousness and just feel the richness. I don't know if you can feel it. I absolutely feel it. Thank you again, Angie. I have the good pleasure today of doing our announcements, and just a few of them so we know and we can highlight what is happening in our community. Starting this Monday and for 8 Mondays in a row from the 13th to November the 11th, we have an amazing, life-changing class. It is called Change is Everywhere. As we know, change is the seed of financial freedom. So we're going to be taking a look in this class, this 8-week course, how shifting and changing our consciousness really opens up our abundance. And who else but to lead us in that course is our very own Reverend Judy Osuna. She's no stranger to this class, and she has developed it in such a way that it is inclusive and that it begins to open you up to even things beyond the financial abundance. It is actually an opening up for all abundance everywhere. Life is mostly water, so let it rain. There are still seats available. Register today. Space is unlimited. So you can still register today, even though the class starts tomorrow, and you will get a Zoom link and all of that good stuff so that you can be with us tomorrow for this 8 weeks. Remember that in order to register, you get to go to downeycsl@gmail.com or give us a call on our phone number at our office so that we can get you registered. The other thing happening today is Minute Miracles, los milagros que toman solamente un minuto, and that is prayer with a practitioner after service. You get an opportunity to be with one of our practitioners after service today. Let them know what it is you want to make manifest in your life, what you're grateful for, what's happening, and in just a moment, they will be able to pray with you and know the truth for you. And you can watch that be made manifest in, through, and as your life. So make sure to take advantage and to utilize the services of our licensed practitioners. They are here for you. We also have opportunities for sacred service. It's called Seva, and Seva means sacred service. We have plenty of opportunities, even with our Zoom connection, for you to be in sacred service. I'll remind you that sacred service is a spiritual practice. And so we are so happy that you want to be in that type of spiritual practice. So we have plenty of opportunities. Please talk with me or Reverend Kevin or anyone on our leadership council after service today, or send us an email if you would like to be in the spiritual practice of sacred service. We would love to bring you on board so that you can experience the gifts that come as a result of being in sacred service. I want to say thank you again to Angelica Guzman, our licensed practitioner of the day. Thank you so much. Today we have the gift of Reverend Kevin, and Rev Kev, as he has it here. Rev Kev is going to be bringing us a very, very powerful message. So thank you in advance, Rev Kev. I want to thank our live stream moderators. Today I see Nancy out there and Sunny Day. Thank you. They're on our Facebook page and are very, very active there. So thank you. Thanks to our leadership council and our music team. And thank you to all of you viewing on YouTube, on Facebook, and all of you who are Zooming with us live today. Thank you, because out of all of the places that you could have been, you are here with us, and we so appreciate and honor you. Another spiritual practice that I enjoy is giving as a spiritual practice. And there are many ways to give. You can always mail your financial blessings to our office, 10,000 Paramount Boulevard in the beautiful city of Downey, California, 90240. You can use your bill pay service and insert that address, and we will get it that way. Or you can go on our website, or even right here in any of the links provided, and use the donate button, and you can make a financial contribution to keep us going. Either way, however you choose to do it, it is a sacred practice, and it is a sacred practice because the consciousness in which we give makes it sacred. We don't do it from a place of I have to do this. We do it from a place of I get to do this. And so we also get to do this with an affirmation. And what we know is that as we repeat and recite these affirmations, that it helps to shift and change our consciousness. Today, I'm going to read our affirmations in Spanish, and you may choose a language of your choice. But please hold your gifts, your tithes, your offerings to your heart as we begin to say this affirmation out loud together. La abundancia
flows in
fluye
my
en
life.
mi vida.
I am
Estoy
blessed with
bendecido con
prosperity.
prosperidad.
I give
Doy
with
con un
generosity.
sentimiento de
Yes.
generosidad. Sí.
I
Diezmo
tithe on
sobre la
faith,
fe y la
belief, and with a
creencia y con
consciousness
una
of love.
conciencia de amor.
My gift is a
Mi
divine
regalo es la
circulation through
circulación
me
divina
that
a
now
través de
benefits
mí,
and grows
que
our
ahora
spiritual community
beneficia y hace
and
crecer
beyond.
nuestra comunidad
And
espiritual
now
y
it
más
is.
allá. Y ahora es. And as we just drink that in, I'm inviting us now to simply prepare our hearts and minds as we listen to this song as a spiritual practice, and we prepare our hearts and minds for the message of Reverend Kevin.
Walking in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit of one God, loving in the Spirit, loving in the Spirit, loving in the Spirit of one God, moving in the Spirit, oh, moving in the Spirit, moving in the Spirit, oh, the Spirit, oh, God.
Hmm. Well, I'm just continuing to breathe in that consciousness as I welcome everyone to our Downers Center for Spiritual Living. I'm hoping you're feeling in that groove as I'm feeling in that groove this morning. Now, as I begin our message today, I want to acknowledge, at least for me, the world that I am in. You know, in Humanville on Earth, as living spirit appears in a material way, living spirit is continually reordering and renovating and rehabilitating and reorganizing itself. So it is, as Martin Luther King has said, we are tied together in the single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. We're all in this together. We are all bound and tied together, and that thread, that garment that ties us all together is one of living spirit. So I just honor and acknowledge that right now, we are gathered here using, with that common thread, with that wrapped in that garment of living spirit. So what is happening in the world around us? Well, we celebrated an unusual anniversary yesterday, the tragedy of 9/11. We are in the midst of a pandemic, and we are in the midst of high holy days. The people of the Jewish faith are in a period of very important holidays for them. And it began last week with the new year. It is the year 5782. That's a considerable period of time in human terms, but a blip in universal terms. And that this High Holy Days concludes part of that period with Yom Kippur. That will occur on the 15th and the 16th. And that period of time is called the 10 days of awe or repentance. And Yom Kippur is a day of atonement. It's a 24-hour period of fasting, of introspection, of repentance and prayer. And for those that observe the holiday in conjunction with their community, with their temple, there is there are 5 prayer services given throughout the day of Yom Kippur. And the Kabbalists, the more esoteric, the metaphysical interpretation of the Jewish faith, this actually continues for another period of time, almost 2 weeks beyond Yom Kippur. And it's interesting because the Kabbalists felt, well, maybe you forgot something on the one day, or maybe there was something that you really didn't completely atone for on the one day. So there is this sort of allowance, as always in that faith tradition, or really any faith tradition, to keep that all going. And so what I really want to point out here is that it is all God, it is all good, and God is the eternal in this case. And the appearances to the contrary are really part of a plan that is difficult for me or you to comprehend. In other words, I see something that is not really patterned after God in the world around me from time to time. But in noticing or not noticing a pattern, it's just a moment where I haven't really locked into that through line, that thread, that garment, that spiritual garment that we are all wrapped and bound by. So even just by a little bit, you and I prove that spirit is ascending, right? That spirit is growing in my consciousness and your consciousness. Again, even in the appearance, or as what appears to be the opposite of that consciousness comes up for us, for you, for I to heal. And that consciousness is one of light and love and compassion. So I just want to remind you where we are in our continuing messages. And all of us who are presenting the message to you and throughout CSL communities around the world, part of the garment that binds us together are these themes. And for the entire year, we are putting our messages in the context of timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. In the months of September, the theme is focusing on reaching higher. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about transcend and include. Now, today's notes and messages were prepared by Reverend Michelle Senegal. And Reverend Michelle is part of our Cultural Integration and Evolution Committee and part of the Diversity Inclusion Commission, not and inclusion, Diversity Inclusion Commission. And we're very careful to make a distinction about the two because it's an intentional act that we are including diversity. They're not two separate things. It's one and the same act and therefore one and the same embrace. So in this month for reaching higher, you are reaching higher in small and great ways, even if it is being reminded about certain things in the world that seem to be at odds with the light and love of living spirit. And so you are, gaining an understanding. You're understanding more about you and your place in the divine and your place in the universe. And that is interpreted as reaching higher, and the higher you're reaching to is a higher consciousness. Now, what Reverend Michelle invites us to do is to push beyond your comfort zone, to innovate in the ways that you move forward. So that could mean changing something about what you do or how you be. But it also means that you're consciously including or incorporating or integrating all of your life experience and the wisdom that you gain along the way. And as you do that, you can't help but transcend. You can't help but rise up. The often comes up in what we will call spiritual psychology and there are a number of different people who have written some brilliant material around this, is something called spiral dynamics. And we mention it just in terms of we are all on a kind of upward spiral of consciousness. We are all on an upward spiral of being loving and compassionate beings. And that means that sometimes things kind of look the same. It seems like, a Groundhog Day experience around something in your life. It could be some relationship or some job or some other challenge you face. And it seems like it's repetitive, but each time this comes up for healing, whatever this challenge might be, you're growing even a little bit in consciousness. You're healing even a little bit. You're becoming a little more whole. And in so doing, the next time that thing seems to come around to repeat, you're actually processing it at a higher consciousness. Therefore, you're processing it at a slightly higher level on that upward spiral. So that's all there is to it, but I think everybody, I'm guessing, understands or can recognize that pattern in their life. Oh yeah, this came up again, and I remember last time I learned this little piece about it. So I don't have to relearn that, but there might be some new facet, some new dimension to that lesson in life that I'm going to catch this time. And therefore it might come around again to learn something still further about that particular lesson. Now, A Course in Miracles says, because I want to talk a little bit about transcend as I move a little bit further into our message today, says awareness or transcendence brings something of another dimension to the three-dimensional human being. In this awareness, there is wholeness. In this awareness, there is totality. Awareness is of one life and one God. Joe Goldsmith says, all that you possess is the unfoldment of your own state of consciousness. And you can have much more as you desire by enlarging the borders of your understanding and your realization. Lionel Corbett from the spiritual psychology camp, we'll call it, an evolving consciousness provides a particular understanding of the individual, your place in the world. The soul, the transcendent self, is that aspect of the psyche that feels as if it is personal. It cannot be divorced from the totality of the larger consciousness of which it is a part. And then finally, Barbara Hofsting breaks it down this way. There are three kinds of transcendence. There is an ego transcendence, meaning the self beyond the personal, the ego. There is a self-transcendence beyond the self to the other. And then there is a spiritual transcendence beyond space and time. Now, right away, I want to sort of delineate a couple of things about transcendence because it seems like a finger snap and it's all done, right? Transcendence. However, rarely does that happen, right? Rarely does one spontaneously transcend. More commonly, somebody aspires to be free from some hurt or pain or disease or challenge, and they want to be free of it so quickly that one just wants to be over it. Have you ever used that term? Oh, I'm just over this, right? How many have those thoughts, where there's a belief of lack or limitation or scarcity or density that appear and seem to stand between you and some healing or some changing course or some good that you envision? So being over it is not really transcendent, right? Being over it is a step in the right direction. I can just tell by the tone of my voice when I say I'm over it that I'm not really over it, right? There's something yet to be healed, to be shifted, to be transcendent. This is from the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes from the textbook. He says, in this science, a person's life is a drama which takes place on three planes: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So I just want to pause there for a minute and talk about that. The physical plane of expression, that's the the dense stuff, the body, the table, the floor, the chair, the people, everything physical in the world. The mental is what's happening in mind, right? And the spiritual is what's happening back of all of those things. So behind any of that, there is some spiritual operation going on. Now, your bridge between the mental and the the physical and the spiritual is the mental. And when we talk about mental, we talk about mind and the science of mind. And as I've mentioned many times, mind does not just mean brain. It does not even just mean conscious thought. It means all of those things operating as sensory systems within your body, within your being, right? So anything that you're intuiting, anything that you're feeling, any emotions flowing through you, all of those are part of the local operation of mind, and that local operation of mind is all part of the one mind. So this is all taking place in the spiritual realm. And what is a manifestation or a trigger for awareness of that then would be the physical. Transcendence involves rising above the physical levels of experience and existence. This is Ernest Holmes again saying, arising beyond conditions in the world of effects into the realm of the spiritual. All right, so that's what's happening, or what you might describe as transcendence. And therefore, the atmosphere, and I like the term atmosphere because it includes so much about what's happening in your interior as well as the world around you. So there is an atmosphere of a realization of God. There is an atmosphere of some greater good as this transcendence is taking you over, or as you are sort of immersing yourself in it. Ernest Holmes goes on in the Science of Mind magazine in August of 1962 and says, that atmosphere of goodness, truth, beauty, harmony, and reality comes in such a degree as one comes to understand, to comprehend, to believe, and make use of the invisible presence. To be spiritually minded is to be whole-minded. To be whole-minded is to be holy. It means you realize the complete unity of God in all of its creation. That seems like a lot, right? Again, it's not necessarily, maybe it is, and I'm not ruling out the possibility or even the probability, the actuality of somebody snapping their fingers and getting to that poise, to getting to that conscious awareness. But if you're like me, it's more of a step-by-step process, right? And the step-by-step process that makes it easy, and it also becomes very direct, are spiritual practices. So here are some spiritual practices that I share with you every week, and hopefully I'm trusting that at least one or two of these is something that you're doing on a regular basis. And even if you don't feel especially skilled or successful at it, merely the activity of it shifts you. So on a daily basis, you might meditate. You might do some form of affirmative prayer or treatment or affirmation. You might engage in some sort of spiritual study or reading. You might journal as a spiritual practice. And again, I encourage visioning on a daily basis, just asking yourself, what is the God, the good idea of my day, this life, my work, my relationships, and how does that feel? What is the feeling tone, the vibe of that vision? And then on a sort of a weekly or monthly basis, you might participate in sacred service. Reverend Sunshine outlined ways in which you can be in Seva or sacred service for our Downey Center for Spiritual Living. You might go to your practitioner, your spiritual counselor. You might give as a spiritual practice. We've already had that opportunity today. And what you're doing right now, whether you know it or not, is a kind of spiritual practice because you are participating in the beloved community. Now, what might you expect to manifest out of that spiritual practice? What might you demonstrate? Well, the direct answer to your response to your spiritual practice are feeling or amplifying feelings already present, maybe calling forth feelings that you weren't quite aware of before, but these are the qualities, the good qualities, the God qualities that come fully bloomed, fully orbed in your consciousness as you engage in spiritual practice. And so as far as transcend and include is concerned, there are a number here that I feel are especially on point, I will say. As I have mentioned already, compassion, freedom, being whole and complete, achieving a certain balance in your life as you are on that upward spiral. And one of my favorites that again comes from A Course in Miracles is grandeur. And grandeur is that quality of being able to see beyond appearances. That feeling that in the midst of something that is to your five sensory system, out of integrity with living spirit, grandeur is the ability to see through that, to see beyond that, to actually know that there is a plan that you may not be fully comprehending at that moment, but God is in play here. And that's the feeling, the quality of grandeur. And so I am accustomed to asking, pardon me, I'm accustomed to asking the question of, why we all gather here on Sundays, why we are participating in this beloved community. And of course, the short answer is to feel better, right? But there's another kind of a why, right? It's that more philosophical, existential why. And only you can answer that question for yourself. Only I can answer that question for myself. But what I can offer are theories, premises, experiences, practices. You can take or leave, right? But any of those things might spark something valuable about why. Now, the why usually has two components to it. One is form and one is function, right? One relates to materiality, one relates to being, your body, temple, your physical form, whatever that might be, as your soul is going through this phase of its evolution. And then the function part is, what am I doing, right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is it in furtherance of? And so it is those two aspects of the same question. As our theme is focusing, right? Transcend and include refers to this in a continuum, an ongoing process, right, of answering that question why, the bigger question why. We know the short answer is to feel better, but why do we even want to feel better? Well, the reason we want to feel better is to advance the soul's journey to expand consciousness. And again, your growth in consciousness is a growth in consciousness for everyone. Your growth in consciousness elevates the consciousness of all the lives your life touches. So there is the personal and the communal always operative in this spiritual journey. Now, in the material world, we talk about this kind of a building blocks of materiality, and sometimes those building blocks are in a mode where they are building up and becoming more complex, and sometimes they're in a mode where they're decreasing in complexity. And in certain cases, there's a sort of a cycle of a breaking down to build up, a breaking down to build up. And this is also true about, at least what I've discovered to be true about my spiritual journey, where there are certain real improvements and advances in my consciousness, my growth, my feeling. And there are other times where I feel like a little step back, a little kind of a breakdown. And again, that breakdown is just part of the bigger pattern that I may have lost my understanding or comprehension of, but is still operative. You know, oftentimes people talk about thermodynamics as a parallel to this kind of back and forth, this build up and breakdown to build up. In the term called entropy, and the opposite of entropy is negentropy, but there's another still opposite, because there's three sides to this, called enthalpy, right? And entropy is that tendency toward chaos, the dissipation, the disordering of things. Negentropy would be the reordering of things, and enthalpy is looking at what is ordered and what is present in that order. And in metaphysics and all faith traditions, you know, we come across these creation mythologies as a way of just understanding a little bit more about our consciousness and our growth on our path. And so we talk about, you know, in quantum, there's everything exists in possibility, right? And we have this thing called a possibility wave. And the possibility wave collapses into what we identify as particles, subatomic particles, right? And those subatomic particles form together to the next level of complexity, which is an atom. And atoms bind together to form molecules, and molecules bind together to form compounds, and compounds bind together to form cells, and cells join together to form tissues, and tissues join together to make organs, and organs join together to make an organism, which might look like you or me, right? So that is a clear pattern from something that is simple to something that is more complex. However, it looks like it stops there, and it doesn't, because the possibility wave keeps going. It's still operative in all of its offspring. So that organism is constantly reorganizing, and it's reorganizing according to varying frequencies and phases and amplitudes of those waves that are all participating along this organizing principle. And living spirit works the same way, right? Living spirit, there is an organizing principle around all creation in living spirit, including you, including me, including the floor I'm standing on, right? And as things, you and I, advance in consciousness, there is a process of incorporating and integrating that lesser step, that simpler thing, into the more complex thing. And there is a process of disintegrating, right? Of simplifying things, right? Of excluding things. So your spiritual practices, you know, you're choosing to take an action to elevate, to improve your feeling, to on a path of transcendence, right? And part of that means having some greater dominion, having real choice in your life. And your intention is focused. You're concentrating the best of your abilities to learn and to grow and to heal. And in so doing, you are aligning with living spirit. You're aligning with something that truly, really supports that expansion in consciousness happening right where you are. It truly supports feeling more good, right? It supports constructivity and creativity. It supports your sensory systems in learning and growing and informing that process. And like most of us, you might make mistakes along the way, right? Now, Yom Kippur is called the Day of Atonement, and the primary spiritual practice in the Jewish faith is called repentance. We have talked a little bit about this, but I just wanted to share not a comprehensive list with you of what the faith tradition calls for in repentance. And right away, you'll probably notice that some of this may not be all that productive. But again, this is just what the Jewish faith begins to work with on Yom Kippur. Acknowledging an error, forsaking an error, worrying about the future consequences of an error, acting and speaking with humility, acting in a way opposite of that error, understanding the magnitude of the error, refraining from lesser errors for the purpose of safeguarding oneself against committing greater errors. That's a lot. Confessing the error, praying for atonement, correcting the error however possible, and pursuing works of benevolence and truth, and remembering the error for the rest of your life. And you could take or leave what that is, but that is a really kind of, it hits all facets of an error you may have discovered in your life. And notice I'm not using the word sin. You will see this written with the word sin and sinner. Not a part of the science of mind teaching, right? People make mistakes. People learn from those mistakes. People grow from those mistakes. That's all that sin really should mean or does mean. And a person is whole, perfect, and complete no matter what mistakes they appear to be making, right? So this identification as someone who is fundamentally an error maker, a sinner, is a false identity, right? So you can just forget about that. At your essence, you are pure spirit. Therefore, all the things that appear to you to be mistakes are not mistakes at all. They're part of that plan that you may not be comprehending at the moment, but they're part of that plan that unfolds for your enlightenment, for your transcendence. So I had shared with you, how we all talk about atonement and repentance and forgiveness, and I had shared with you before, but I'll just remind you, here's how to forgive, right? Recall that occurrence that led to a hurt. Notice everything about this moment. Notice the instant you made the unloving choice. Remake a constructive, positive, opposite choice. And then notice those shifts in consciousness. So I just want to gather us right now in prayer. So I invite you to turn your attention inward. And I just call to heart and mind that presence that knows, that presence that grows, that presence that loves, that presence that is compassion. And know that that presence is living spirit. And I know that presence is right where I am. That it indwells and surrounds all beings everywhere. So I know that presence is right where you are right now. So that presence is appearing to you as a love, as a compassion, as a caring, as a sharing. That is appearing to you as a healing. It is appearing to you as something that is great and whole. So I speak my word knowing that you are on that transcendent path right now. That you are feeling and sensing in precisely the way and shape and form that propels you toward that transcendence. I speak my word that you bless and release anything that no longer serves you, yet you learn those lessons. I speak my word knowing that you incorporate and integrate, that you include as you grow, as your consciousness grows, as you rise, as you reach higher and aspire. For you truly are that inspiration. You truly are that creation of living spirit. At your essence, you are that living spirit. So I give thanks for this answered prayer. I give thanks for this communion, this connection in spirit. And I simply release it into the law of mind and action, knowing as it is spoken, it is so. That living spirit says yes to more life, to more love, to more compassion. And that's happening for you and me right here and right now. And now it is. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, please sign up for Reverend Judy's class. Just a reminder for that. We have Minute Miracles in a few minutes, and we're going to close by singing a prayer. And now I always forget the fancy saying, but any prayer that's sung is a prayer prayed twice, something along those lines. At least that's as close as I'm going to get to it, I think, right now.
This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. We lift our voices, in love we stand. We lift our voices, in love we stand.
So let's say goodbye to our live streamers. Thank you for joining us this week. Glad to have you here. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.